Good day, everybody. My name is Mr. Major B. Daniel. So, in today's video, we're going to talk about the history of agriculture, in which we have what? Three learning objectives. So, the first learning objective is we are going to outline the historical progression of what? Farming practices. And also, the second learning objective, we're going to explain what is meant by what? Nomadic way of life, uh, animal herding, food gathering, and also hunting. So the last but not least, we are gonna conclude with the last learning objective, which is what? Which is suggesting the reasons why people were moving from one place to another. So before we start with the first learning objective, so we have to explain what is agriculture, right? So agriculture is refers to science of keeping what? Of growing crops or keeping livestock for what? For food, raw materials, and also income. So let's now move to the first learning objective, in which we are going to outline the historical progression of farming practices. In this learning objective, we are going to discuss about the crops which we cultivated, right? The animal farming, as well as the marketing, right? So let's start with the crops. So in the past, so crops such as millet, sorghum, and beans were cultivated using basic tools. So what we mean by basic tools? So basic tools, we are referring to the tools that are used by what? By hands, such as the what? The hoe and also the what? The axis. So in the early 19th centuries, during German colonial eras, so commercial farming techniques and new crops such as maize, right, with the wheat and fruits were also introduced in the early 19th. So let's now move to the animal farming. So animal farming, here we are going to talk about the animals, the domestic animals that people in the past were what? Farming with. So, and here we are going to talk about what? The domestic animals that people were in the past were farming with. So, in the past, domestic animals such as goats, sheep, and cattle were what? Were the ones that mostly, right, the farmers were what? Farming with. And the cultures that were known, were dominating others in terms of these domestic animals were what? Were only two cultures in Namibia, which is what? The Herero and the Namas. So let's now conclude with the marketing. All right. So nowadays, if you look at our modern uh, agriculture, we have formalized marketing system. We have MeatCo that stands for meat and uh, meat product export, right? So if one wants to sell his or her cows or sheep or whatever related to agriculture, whatever meat related to agriculture, whatever domestic animals that one have, someone can just rush to the closest formalized marketing system, which is MeatCo, right? In the past, there were no what? Formalized marketing system. So the surpluses, right? The surpluses from agricultural activity were shared within the community or trade locally through what we call barter system. Barter system is a system of exchanging goods with goods. For example, I have bags of mahangu, 10 bags of mahangu, and I want a cow, right? So if I want a cow, I must look for someone that wants those 10 bags of mahangu, right? So that I can exchange my 10 bags of mahangu with the cattle that I want. Exchanging what? Goods with goods. That is what we call barter system. Let's move to our second learning objective, in which we are going to explain or state the terms nomadic way of life. We're going to explain the terms nomadic way of life, animal herding, food gathering, and also hunting. So let's start with the first term, nomadic way of life. It's a lifestyle in which people have to move from one place to another. It's a lifestyle in which people have to move from what? From one place to another. And those people that were living this type of lifestyles are called what? Nomads. Are called what? Nomads. So let's move to the second term, which is what? Animal herding. Is refers to keeping domestic animals for human purposes, which includes what? Labor, raw materials, food, and income. Right. So one might ask what we mean by labor. So in the past, the farmers were not access to machineries or the equipments that a farmer needs in order to carry out the what? The farming activities within the field. So here we are talking about the machinery such as the tractors and others. So in the past, the farmers were not access to these type of what? Resources. So the oxen were there for what? For power. In order to pull these plows for the farmer to cultivate and also harvest at the end of the what? Of the season. So let's move to the third term, which is what? Food gathering. The word gathering means what? Collecting from the dictionary. Means what? Collecting. Now, food gathering refers to collecting of what? Wild fruits, such as what? The wild strawberries, monkey oranges, and etc. So these people that were collecting these wild fruits are called what? Gatherers. Right? So these people that were collecting these wild fruits are called what? Gatherers. So let's move on to the last term, which is what? Hunting. All right. Hunting is refers to killing wild animals for what? For food, bones, and also we can say for protection. What do we mean by protection? Remember that in most cases, like in the past, so males were what? Were considered to be what? Hunters. Mostly the hunters were what? Males. Right. So these males had what? Responsibilities to protect their families. Wherever they were having a family with them. So their main purpose is not only to bring food on the table, but also to ensure that the safety of their families are not at stake, right? By defending them from wild what? Animals that are threatened to human lives, such as what? The lions, the cheetahs, and others. So let's now conclude with our last learning objective, in which we're going to state the reasons why people were moving from one place to another. So one of the crucial reasons are they were moving from one place to another to look for what? Food, shelter, better grazing land for their animals, and also water, as well as to avoid land dispute. So land dispute is having a disagreement or a conflict over a what? Over a land. For example, the Hereros and the Naomas, for those of us that did histories, there was what? A conflict between the two of them. Right. Now, these are the reasons why people have to move, because obviously, if you don't want to engage yourself in a conflict over a land, what do you need to do? You have to obey. You have to surrender so that you can leave this area to the what? To your opponents or to your fellows that wants the land. Thank you for watching. I hope you have learned 2 or 3 things from this video. Until then, goodbye.